Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Matt Roush from TV Guide Magazine and TVinsider.com. Before we are joined by our guests today, I want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies entirely on donations to provide emergency assistance and free educational programs to SAG-AFTRA artists. This conversation is made possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters. Over the past year, the foundation has given nearly $7 million in COVID relief to more than 7,000 performers. If you are a SAG-AFTRA artist and need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for your support. And now, without further ado, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce actors Rose McIver, Utkarsh Ambudkar, Brandon Scott Jones, Richie Moriarty, Danielle Pinnock, Asher Grodman, Román Zaragoza, Sheila Carrasco, Wisocky, Devan, Chandler Long, the cast of Ghosts. Welcome all. Welcome all spirits. Welcome all livings. It is just so great to see you. It is great to see you every Thursday, and it's great to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us. I know a few of you are doing this on your lunch break. So again, thank you so much for attending this SAG-AFTRA conversation. Basically, I want to start by congratulating you as well, because it's quite clear this show is that rare breed now on network TV, what you would call a hit. So congratulations on that. Has it sunk in at all that this show has and is catching on? Yes.
You know, Matt, when we reached the second year of waiting to see if this show was going to get made, I think we all knew we had something special. By that 75th COVID test, when it was tickling me right here, I was like, you know what? No, I think we're going to buy a house. That's how that went.
Well, and has it ended as well that with the exception of two of you, you're going to be stuck in those costumes for years and years to come. Is this a good or a bad thing?
We're currently in Montreal. In what weather are we in?
It's like minus.
It's in the minus.
Celsius is minus.
There's a dash in front of the number, so it's never good.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Well, Asher, is that
in winter? We'll say, yeah.
Is that a particular challenge for you, Asher, knowing that you never get to actually be fully dressed on set?
Yes, somehow I knew that question was coming to me.
It's just so odd. Yeah.
I to be completely honest with you, I had never done a comedy before this. So for me, not having my pants on is kind of a comfort, because it was like in the beginning, it was like, I don't know how to be funny. I don't know how to keep up with these people and everything. And then I'm like, oh, I'm not wearing pants. So I should be okay. But there was like that night after the 2-year wait of like, we're ever going to do this, and being stuck with the same 4 people and then shooting a thing in front of 100 people. And I had to take my pants off in public. And that was, then it hit me.
Yeah.
There's a little secret about Asher. He actually, in the winter months, he puts Tiger Balm on his legs to keep them warm, and that's why they glisten. And that's just a little fun fact behind the scenes right there. A lot of Tiger Balm.
I asked Devan to put the Tiger Balm on because he knows how.
I only put it on the hamstrings. I don't deal with quads.
There was a while where my legs were getting foundation on them, which was a very funny sight, captured by Richie Moriarty at one point and posted online.
Can we just do this whole talk about Asher's legs?
No, it's an interesting thing. But now 2 of you have already mentioned the fact that it was a 2-year process to get to where you are now. So can you explain to our listeners what was involved in terms of putting this cast together, and then also the pause because of all what happened in the world, and how long it has taken you to get to this point to become an overnight sensation?
I was just oh yeah, go for it. Who wants to do it?
Brandon, you were the first cast, weren't you?
I was the first one cast, but I was going to say, so I've been, as the old vet, I would say that the way I look at it in terms of this show coming together is a group chat that keeps getting larger and larger and larger. Because when we first got put together as a cast, we were about to start shooting. It was like a Friday, and we were about to start shooting on a Monday. And that Friday, we were shut down And in that time, we
Friday the
didn't have
13th, by the way. That was
Friday the 13th. Yeah.
Ah.
And I think only 5 of us had been cast at that point. And so we didn't know who our other cast members were going to be. And we couldn't believe that we were starting to shoot. And then like more news was coming. And it felt more and more like we weren't going to be doing this right away. But what was really fun, and I think was sort of like a blessing in disguise, was that we got to stay in touch while the world shut down. We got to become friends over text message and group chat. And that group chat just kept growing and growing and growing as more people joined the cast. And it's still very, very active today.
Brandon, when did you hit mute on the group chat? When exactly?
Yeah,
I feel like that happened.
It was a couple months ago.
I hit mute on it a couple months ago because it was just getting too much. You know what I mean? It was just too much. And it was fun and charming at first, but now I see you all in person. So I'm like, I don't need to text. I don't need to do this. And I do miss out on all the fun stuff.
It beeps. If you have your volume on, it will beep all day, every day. We love
It really, really will. I think I was like on a Zoom and it was like ding, ding, ding.
Well, that's so interesting, because one of the other questions about filming during an age of COVID is whether you can become a true ensemble. What I really like about this conversation, having you all here, is that we can dig a little bit into what it means to be in a true ensemble comedy, which this show so totally is, and how you were able to bond despite the challenges of COVID and separation. And what can you do as you were all put into the show together, the first 5 and the others as they joined, to coalesce as the unit that you now are? Anybody? Yeah.
I all of the uncertainty and all of like the worldwide trauma that was happening, I think helped bring us closer together. Like Richie and I are the only East Coast people during this. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that we ended up doing in the pilot, like Aeroflex and stuff like that, came from the fact that we were commiserating together in all that time. And so you just get to know each other. And so I think a lot of that just comes from being in the same boat.
Matt, we're stuck in Montreal, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, we got no one else, Matt.
J'adore Montreal.
Matt, I don't know what
No
she
friends
just
up here that I don't work.
We don't speak French, Matt.
No one
my
wants my
favorite.
friendship. I've tried to make friends. None.
I speak really bad French, but I can understand quite a bit of what's going on. So I quite enjoy that, to be able to listen to what certain people are saying on the crew. And I keep being like, guys, I'm going to come back even better season 2. So you got to watch how you talk about us.
Rose speaks French really well, actually.
She does.
Very good.
Sis comes in with a full children's book of French and reads it out to everybody every morning. Like, sis, cut it. You're
And
amazing.
everyone's like, can we get back to work? And I'm like, wait.
Madeline,
I need to know how
never.
this finishes.
Caillou, move over. Rose is in town. Okay. That's it.
When you're on location, it's, we spend time, we have each other. That's and each other's families. And that's kind of who we spend time with.
And we genuinely delight in one another's company. All these people are so unique and so deeply, truly, naturally funny. I think it makes it easy, where it could have been horrible to be trapped 10 people in one room, all with masks on, all trying to do a bit, all trying to do this very facile verbal, wordplay. But it's become actually quite easy for us to all know how to give and take space and toss the ball up in the air and know that it's going to be, passed. We really lucked out. It was incredibly well cast by Tanis Valley and Liz Barnes.
Yeah.
And I really do think that it sounds sappy, but the fact that we enjoy watching each other soar and shine and are genuinely tickled by one another really, really does a lot of the work for us.
Yeah, I grew up in a really small, like very close-knit, just me, my brother, my mum and dad, and we're super close and they're amazing. But I had always wondered what it would be like to have a big extended family and to have like this person who you go to for these problems and this person who you laugh with and this person who you get advice from. It's like we have that in this big group where we're all able to meet other people's needs on screen and off. And it's just like a really special kind of very familial feeling, particularly as Utkarsh said, being away together definitely bonds you.
I was going to say we've all at different points amongst the cast about how important the people at the top of the call sheet are to in terms of like group bonding. And we are just insanely lucky to have Rose and Utkarsh at the top. They are like, they've become such warm, close friends for all of us. And really, I mean, we've all been parts of other projects where, it can be really tough when you're dealing with bad personalities at the top of a call sheet. And we're insanely lucky that we have who we have as part of this team.
And just a big shout out to the people at the bottom of the call sheet as well.
Awesome.
I
Didn't
agree.
mention you specifically.
You know, number 1 on your call sheet, number 1 in your hearts, or whatever. Number 10 on your call sheet.
Oh, that's so sweet.
No big deal.
Well,
Moving on.
I'm led to believe, though, that not all of you were strangers coming into this process, that because of many of your backgrounds in improv and things like that, I see that, you know, there's Upright Citizens Brigade and the Groundlings and Second City and for Utkarsh, Freestyle Love Supreme. You all come with these kind of backgrounds. So how many of you like knew each other, or how did that help gel the group as you brought those experiences with you to the set?
Richie and I went to high school together.
Yeah, Utkarsh went to high school together, but didn't know each other in high school. He was a freshman and I was a senior. We didn't know each other though, so we kind of discovered that when Utkarsh was cast. We started talking about that. I knew Brandon from Upright Citizens Brigade, but not well. He and I were there at the same time, but our times didn't overlap completely. I actually didn't know anybody, personally.
I went to college with Utkarsh. We've known each other for about 20 years now.
Long time.
I didn't know really anyone else, although I knew people that knew everyone, 6 degrees. But I did work with and meet Román's father, Greg, who's going to be on the show, and he's fabulous. And so did Rebecca at one point.
I worked with Román's father in New York in late night sketch soap opera many years ago. When Román was very, very young. And also we play together at the Geffen. A lot of us have a theater background or an improv background, and I think that, that skill set is definitely, definitely comes in handy with this job.
Yeah, my very first show in LA at the Geffen was with Rebecca, and she was as magnificent in that show as she's going to be in tonight's episode. She's going to be and she's truly a masterclass performance. My God, this woman is the one. Truly.
I prefer a lower expectation, but thank you.
Oh, no way to lower
Devin
it.
and I,
Yeah.
I was going to say, Devin and I also played professional football together.
Wild ride. Yeah. Brandon, he's a hell of a punter.
It was the high kicks.
We'd long snap together and just do some, a lot of locker room. It was fun. Good
1,
time.
2, 3, go Panthers!
It was the Cougars, but whatever.
Cougars. Oh, that one.
Did you say long snap?
Yeah.
Yes, there's you have to get the ball from the line of scrimmage to the punter, and that would be.
Is that how Asher broke Brandon's finger? With a nice good old long snap?
And then I got together to toss a football, and I allegedly broke his finger.
Well, it happened.
Show the
It's
evidence.
not alleged. It's like, look, there's a difference now. You can see it. I've been maimed.
No longer an ingenue.
No longer an ingenue. What are these fillers for?
Oh, well, your chemistry is well and alive here in this session. I really appreciate all you're doing here. But one of the things about this show that is unexpected, I think, in many regards to a network comedy is how deeply we are already invested in many of these character stories as we have seen them play out over these episodes. Almost everybody has gotten a beat where you can be not just funny, but also quite poignant in what you have lost in your spirit world and what you yearn for and all of that. So I would love to get any of you to talk about those moments that have allowed you to deepen your character more than maybe you thought you would at the beginning.
I think this is it's part of what makes Ghosts a really special show. I mean, we have this giant ensemble, but the writers have done such an incredible job, and Joe Port and Joe Wiseman, our showrunners, have done an incredible job, giving us each a moment to shine and also to turn our characters into a three-dimensional character. I mean, especially in the pilot, we're introducing so many of us at the same time. So you're only getting a little bit of a surface level. But yeah, those episodes that we were able to delve into backstory were huge. I mean, it's such a gift to us as performers to get to really show different dimensions to these characters. In my case particular, the episode about my wife, my character, that his family is still currently living. So he gets to, visit with his wife and see his daughter and meet his grandson. And those are the moments that I think, again, make this show different than other network sitcoms. It feels like it's a special show because of those moments that we've all gotten in these first handful of episodes.
Yeah.
I can't talk too much about this new episode coming out that's actually about Sasapis's backstory, but the shooting that episode was so exciting, and I think it'll air in about a month or so. And also just being able to play a character that, of course, appears to be this, native character. Well, he is a native character from the 1500s, but he speaks like a contemporary American person because he's adapted, he's smart. And I just really am grateful for the Joes to, really foster this character and allow me to really bring myself to it. And yeah, it's been such a dream as an actor to play him.
Well, Román, I wanted to address that as well, about how your voice is so different than many of the others, especially the ones who come from period, who have stayed sort of in their idiom in many ways, and you have not. And was that built into the character, or is that something that you developed as you figured out what the voice of your character would be?
Actually, when I auditioned for Ghosts, they just said, please don't use an accent, just use your normal voice. And, when you're auditioning for a Lenape man from 1520, you're like, okay, cool. That sounds great. It's a comedy. Let's do it. And I really didn't want to put on a voice or anything. I want to do that. And then before I knew it, I was just making justifications as to why it was like this. And it made sense. He's the smartest guy in the room, and he's just adapted.
Okay, hold on.
He is.
Keep going.
You can try. You can try. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah.
Fact checker on this whole thing. There's a fact checker.
Gotta get.
It's him or Thorfinn. It's like, the top
I'm in the running. All right, that's all I want. I just want the conversation continue.
Mm-hmm. Well, Thorfinn, Devan, excuse me. So if finding,
you know what? Let's
it gets confusing.
Yeah, really, right? But it's like to find nuance in this very, very bold character. How's that going for you?
Nuance? You know what? They write stuff. I look at it. I taste it in my mouth for a little bit, and then I spit it out.
Devan channels
even
the character in a way that you can't
that's right.
unless you're there. It's like he is summoning something from the depths of the universe that we can't really get into. Like if I try to have a conversation with Devan in the middle of a take, he responds as Thorfinn. He's probably the most method of us when
I'll throw water on her. Be like, no.
He's also like a masterful improviser as well, too.
Yeah.
Like
Danielle
he can
read my
go
mind.
for hours and hours and fresh take after fresh take. He really is incredible.
And he has no right to be that and a pro sportsman. Like it just I draw the line.
Thank God it's back.
I'm not pro sportsman anymore. Those days are over. Yeah.
That's all right.
Where is your latitude for improvisation on this set? Just because, it's a scripted show, but these characters are very bold characters.
Can I give a big shout out to the Joes in this moment? Because it's like, we do improvise, and a lot of these people who I'm working with, I'm not a natural improviser. These guys are amazing, and I'm here to sing their praises all day long. But I think there is sometimes when we do a show like this, there's a misunderstanding that we're not given this incredible material to begin with to work from. And we have like this really good jumping off point from which these guys are able to put incredible choices on. And they're really good about using a lot of the strong choices, but there are such solid bones to work from. And I think everybody feels safe to play when they have those.
And I would also add to that is that I think a lot of times people assume that improvisation is just like saying something funny in the moment. And what it really is this collaborative tool. And I think that because the Joes and us are all open to it, there is a collaboration that happens that even if it's not necessarily what's on the page right away, it might be something that the Joes or our writers come up with in that moment and we're excited about, or we discover something in that moment that we can all agree upon that can be really, really cool. 1,000% that there's such a good structure to what we get to work with right out of the gate, but also the fact that they're open to that collaboration, I think gives us all a little bit of like a thumbprint in that creative process, just like every other member of our crew too. And I think that's so exciting.
Well said.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
We could probably do more, guys. Let's be honest. We could do, Matt, you should see some of these improvs, baby. We're killing it out there. Wait for the blooper reels. That's all.
We got some good bloops. That's
we've got some good bloopers. That's
Yeah.
There's a really great blooper. You get a little taste of it in the blooper reel that's out there right now with Danielle and Devan. But when Danielle was talking about Devan's improvisation stuff, it is just out like tears coming down her face, and it's truly a joyful moment to watch.
My favorite thing ever is when Danielle cries when she's laughing, and it's like you've just started it and you can't stop. It's the best.
You know you're doing good when Danny's going for it. Like
Yeah, that's kind of the brass ring.
Yeah, that's a win. That's a win.
If makeup has to come in for a touch-up for Danielle, you know you were fine.
Exactly.
I think the spirit of improv, though, is embraced on set. And it's really not a lot of times for what you see on screen. It's for us. It's for the Joes. It's for the crew. It's for the camera operators. It's for the people who are the COVID team. It's for the people who are there 14, 16 hours a day, who you'll never see and probably don't recognize on the street. But like, if they're laughing, we all know that those are the biggest wins for us. So while the Joes could definitely use more of our improvs because we are brilliant, it's not for them, is it? It's for our comrades. Anyway, I tried to say something sweet and then I went right back.
I saw that.
It was so close, though.
Well, really, almost happened. So,
It was salted caramel.
The takeaway was we love our crew, which is very true.
Thank you.
Well, have any of you had experience on the more traditional 3-camera sitcom sort of format at all? I don't remember seeing that in many of your credits, but I just wonder if that's something that you have tried before as well, because here you're landing big laughs in that filmed format, and it's not like you have an audience that's responding on anything, which is again different than your background in doing that with the improv groups and all of that. So just wondering how, when you're playing, like the idea of using improv to sort of like play and experiment with the material you're given, when you're trying to land these big laughs on a soundstage.
You don't have that live studio audience. I've played in that world a bit, but again, making one another laugh, like we know when something works. We know when something's funny. If we can get the Joes to laugh and the directors, I mean, everyone in that room kind of becomes that live studio audience for us.
Well, I don't want to give away the big twist of tonight's episode, but I will say that the big moment that happens toward the end of the episode, I've played it back a couple of times because at one point Thorfinn said, "I did not scream," and I do think he screamed in this moment. But it's like to watch everybody's reaction. I wonder how many times was that filmed and shot with all of that happening. I'm just kind of curious how a moment like that, because it's to me one of the biggest laugh moments I have seen on the show so far this season, and it is just playing it back. I laughed and laughed and laughed because watching each of you react to this moment, because it's a big moment. So I'm just kind of curious how that went to film.
I feel like we did
get some serious airtime. Don't you really jump clear into the sky there, Asher?
Yes.
There are parts of me that get some serious airtime, more so than we've ever had.
What was Sheila gonna say?
Sheila, you.
I hope my mic's working okay.
Yes, it is.
I was just gonna say, I feel like we shot it so quickly. I don't think we spent too much time with the nuance of it. Let's say we just really went for it, and so it's so nice to hear that it's got so many layers and it's so funny. I'm excited to see it.
I think that was one that was shot at the end of it is like we're pushing the 16th hour on a Friday, and wasn't it, guys? And we just
I feel like every scene feels like that sometimes. Everyone was like, "What's going on here?" No, yeah, I don't know. It took a regular amount of time, right? Probably like 3 takes and moved on.
Yeah.
But I feel like everybody did in that moment. I'm really curious to hear you say that, because you've seen it before we have. I find that even when the East Coast are watching it sometimes, and I'm on the West Coast when I'm not here, and I'm like, what happened? Somebody tell me how that turned out. Like, I think in that moment, I remember feeling like everybody has kind of distilled into their characters so beautifully at this point in the season, where the responses were so purely those characters. And I'm thinking of Danielle's off the top of my head, which is happening immediately next to me. But everybody, it felt like a really distilled kind of character moment where I looked around that room. So that's nice to hear it landed.
Oh, it did. One of the questions that, because I have a Q&A mailbag of my own job, and so people ask me a lot of questions about the shows they love, and one of the ones is about Jay and the difficulty that Utkarsh may have in terms of the fact that you can't really interact with the rest of the cast. There's a degree of difficulty in that performance, and also just in the fact that there are people who wish that you could because they find that's frustrating, because they think that would be so much fun if you could, which is not, of course, the premise of the show. But for you, what challenge does that give that you really can't respond to the people on set who are around you all the time?
It's a cold and lonely world, Matt. I'll tell you. And it just gets lonelier and lonelier with every episode. No, it's the biggest challenge is these guys are, I mean, they're hilarious. Every one of these performers is unique and very special in their own right. The characters that they've built are one of a kind. They all have very strong points of view. Their personalities are quirky and strange. And the hardest thing to do is to not watch them. These are people who I would, I'm so lucky to be able to work alongside them, and to work with them, I suppose, as an actor would be a dream. But really, just like whoever's watching at home, the fans of this show, you and I are in the same exact boat. We're just watching these amazing characters come to life. And the only difference between you and I is that I'm not allowed to laugh, which is, I suppose, my biggest challenge. But I think I've ruined several takes every episode, trying to keep it together.
There are so many fun ways they're finding, shout out to your work in Possession, that like getting to see you be able to interact. It's like this treat that we've worked and waited for so long, and you really shone in that episode. And I think that trusting the Joes, there's going to be all different kinds of devices that can be used down the track to explore that, I hope.
Yeah, I think we'll find ways for the audience to be satisfied while still, sticking true to the core relationship of Sam and Jay, because there's a lot of fun that we mine from that confusion as well, right? Like Sam is she's got this whole gang that I can't see, and I think the two of us, that dynamic is really fun as well. You don't want to lose that.
It feels a lot like we're like a pack of like golden retriever puppies, and there's a guy standing in the room, and we just wanted to pet us and play with us, and we can't play with Utkarsh.
Yeah.
And I know he wants to scratch our ears, and he just has to ignore us. And
I can't because they're ghosts. They're ghosts of golden retriever puppies.
Oh, cute.
Once again, there we are.
I doubt they'll go for the same beat again anytime soon, but if there was another character that you could be possessed by and channel that personality, is there one in that group, or one that you have even mimicked along the way, who would be particularly fun for you?
Anyone. I honestly, like, the great thing about impersonating people, you're only as good as your source material, and everybody on this panel would be really a challenge, and a really fun challenge to try and, I guess, copy or embody. And except for Asher, he'd be easy. You just take your pants off and you're good to go. Do this, and I got you, baby. I know exactly who you are. Any single one of them, I would love to. And being able to play Rebecca for one episode was such a treat. I think we had a really good time with that.
Oh, and Rebecca, that episode gave you a chance to do something so tangible that we'd never seen any of the characters do before. So how has that sort of impacted you going forward in your development of this character, which again takes another step tonight in the episode where your husband comes back? So your character has certainly had an arc in this first year.
Yeah, in little, I think Danielle, as Alberta calls it, baby steps. Hetty takes a couple of baby steps forward, and then she goes and says something that's absolutely just horrible. So she's trying to grow and change. And, the thing, Utkarsh delivered such a wonderful performance. And I think one of the things that was so lovely about it is that it enabled, I think, the audience to kind of experience Hetty's heart and sense of loss in a way that you might not have been able to experience the story had I been standing there giving a monologue about it. Hetty really experienced that, that cathartic moment of eating all these things, wanting so desperately to leave, feeling like it was truly possible, and then being reminded that no, of course, we're all stuck here for all eternity. And I think that adds to the pathos of this kind of character to all of us. And we're stuck here for some reason, and I don't know that we'll ever truly figure it out, but we're all trying.
One of the things about this ensemble that is so great is that you are a very eclectic group playing very eclectic group of characters. And one of the things that we always try to accomplish in a SAG-AFTRA conversation is to give a sense of how people got here. So in terms of, I'm going to go basically to each one of you for sort of a brief rundown of how you got started in this profession and how you sort of got here, your background as an actor that then prepared you for something that what you're doing right now. So I'll start like looking where my geography is on my screen. I'll start with Rose to get a sense of how this all began for you and how this came to be.
I started acting in New Zealand when I was very little. I was like 3, and I was essentially, a prop, for want of a better phrase. I was sort of reacting to the world around me. And my brother was scouted in a bank when he was a kid, and I got scouted. And I just sort of worked incidentally, like as a local hire through high school and all the way through school, where everybody else was doing ballet or tennis or something else. Like acting was the thing I went and did. And then towards the end of high school, I started working as like regularly on TV shows and moved out to the States and have, time's flown. Has been in the States for 10 years now. So it was very grateful. I've been really lucky to be spoiled with lots of genre shows, lots of sort of supernatural elements, which I really enjoy, the fan base that comes with that and the sort of imagination that comes with being a part of that production. And I've got it in spades here.
And did the fact that iZombie was sort of a combination of genre, where it was a mashup of both comedy and thriller, that the fact that this is also a bit of a mashup kind of a show with its, comedy with a little dramatic underpinning, and the fact that you have to sort of interact with each of these weird supernatural characters, was that any kind of a help to get you on this?
Yeah, you must have missed the global news that iZombie was the first rom-com zomdram. So it's a romantic comedy zombie drama. So we felt like genre covering is sort of spinning those plates is my sweet spot. That's what I like to do. I really like to try to bring heart and integrity to projects where there's hopefully a lot of fun going on too.
That's awesome. Danielle, get a sense of your story.
Listen, church plays, that's where I started. I've played Black Jesus and Mary and Joseph for years. Okay. That was my start. My mom was like, you need an after school activity. You can't do sports. You have asthma. Be in these plays. And that's exactly what I did. I took it seriously in college. I'm Jamaican, first generation. So obviously had to have a pre-law backup. Because my mom didn't trust theater as much. So I did it in Temple University in Philadelphia, went to grad school in the UK to get my MFA in acting. We moved to Chicago, did Second City, and did a ton of theater while I was there. Goodman, Steppenwolf, Victory Gardens, all of the fan favorites. And then decided to move to Los Angeles in 2016, did a fantastic play with Rebecca where I was an understudy, and my very first TV gig was This Is Us in their first season. And I got my SAG-AFTRA card and I was like, yes, how much is this membership? I've been I'd say thank goodness for savings and selling every piece of furniture I had at the time. But I'm a member and I got health insurance, okay? But I am so grateful to have been in the CBS family for 4 years. I was on Young Sheldon. That's where I got my start. And so lucky to be doing Ghosts. I feel like as a Black plus size woman, a lot of times, and a lot of the characters I was playing in theater were like occupationally driven roles. So it's like the sassy receptionist or like the weird lady who gets Lunchables at the shopping mart. Like there was no real backstory to these characters. So getting to play Alberta has been such a delicious, delicious treat. And being able to give voice to these like hidden figures in the 1920s, all these Black folks that we really don't know about. It's like really my tribute to them for this role. So that's how I got my start.
Can we expect a full bore musical episode at some point?
My God, I would be so hyped. And I just also want to say that like Ghosts, it takes me down in the fact that now we got these love triangles, possible love triangles happening. I'm like, we could also have a reality TV show in tandem with it.
Being hot in here.
No.
Real Housewives of Woodstone Estate.
Literally, Love After Life. Come on, I'm ready. CBS.
Love After Life. That's so good.
Love After Life. That's it. CBS. Cut the check.
Well, thank you. Richie, your turn. I'd love to hear your story.
I can't believe we just witnessed Danielle selling a show within a panel.
I would watch the hell out of that. Yeah.
Like her 40th show she sold this year too, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I came up through the improv and sketch comedy world. I started, mostly my career started at a theater called Improv Asylum in Boston, where I performed improv and sketch 8 nights a week for 4 years. And that's kind of where I got my 10,000 hours. And then I moved to New York City. I started working with the Upright Citizens Brigade and doing more sketch and improv with them. And then I started doing, commercial work and voiceover work. That's kind of what paid the bills while I was getting smaller roles in TV and film. And then the TV and film stuff started to build as I, had better relationships with casting directors in New York and starting to work with folks in LA. Yeah. And then this script came along and it was kind of, I immediately was kind of like, oh, I know I can do this. It's right in my wheelhouse. So it'll just be a matter of whether casting thinks I'm a good fit. But I just feel very fortunate to have gotten the script and gotten to read for it. It's just been a delight.
Well, your character has probably the strongest corollary to the British version of a character. Were you aware of that show? Did they tell you not to watch or to watch, or anybody can weigh in on this as well? But because yours is so close to the character that is in the UK version, were you basically disinclined to look at it to create your own role?
It was very interesting. When we got the materials for the audition, they told us obviously that it's this existing show on the BBC. I had not seen it. I sought it out online and I watched the pilot. And I love Jim Howick, who plays Pat in the BBC version, who's kind of the direct translation of my character. And I just adore him. I actually know him primarily from Sex Education on Netflix. He plays one of the teachers on Sex Education, and he's just insanely funny in that. And so I didn't watch more than the BBC pilot because right away I was like, the last thing I want to be doing is feeling like I'm doing an impression of him. And I really wanted to try to make this my own thing, obviously. So I kind of shied away from watching too much of it, but he has been an insanely supportive person to me since our show got started. He's an executive producer on our show, along with other people from the BBC version. And he's been, he and I message through Twitter, and he's just always sending me lovely messages. He's been a real champion of mine from really the pilot. And it's hugely appreciative, obviously, because there's something weird about stepping into someone else's shoes like that. But he's been a huge support, which has made this very lovely.
Well, that's awesome. Rebecca, how did things start for you?
Well, I'll also tag on to that and say Martha Howe Douglas, who plays Fanny Button, who is kind of like my character's corollary. Also one of the producers and original creators of the BBC version, has been very lovely and and generous with me as well. I have a messaging relationship with her. So I think we all have a little bit of a hope that maybe one day they can check into Woodstone Estate, some sort of HR retreat or something, and all back into the TV. Anyway, I have looked like I was 40 years old since I was 11, and that's really true. So I also was a very shy child. So my mother took me to the community theater, and we were lucky enough in my town to have a very good community theater. And I started playing all of these very important roles when I was 12, which I had no business playing. I think it kind of stoked in me this kind of this fetish for strong, powerful, regal women. And I've been very lucky to have been given a wide breadth of kind of roles that I'm asked to play. But this is kind of my little sweet spot. And Hetty is the new version of this as I now get older. She's and softer and easier with myself. Hetty has kind of reflected this kind of trajectory in my life of this series of persnickety fancy ladies, and I love doing it so much. And not that they're all alike, but I feel like I've kind of accidentally made a career of playing fancy ornery types.
Persnickety fancy ladies. I love that. I will be saying that for the rest of my life.
But anyway, I did a whole lot of theater. I joined a dance theater company right out of college, toured the world with them, and learned a lot about composition and about being a physical actor that I use in comedy, I think, quite a bit. And then eventually was lured out to Los Angeles, and I still go back and to New York as much as I can, but Oh boy, that was bad storytelling. Did you get any scenes?
No, I just wish I'd seen your late night soap one scene. I just wish I'd gone to that.
Oh, it was really good.
That would have been fun. Yeah, that would have been fun.
Jeff Weiss. Román, you were told many of these stories, but was an early comedic influence and had this late night soap that ran midnight Fridays and Saturday nights called Hot Keys. Anyway, so Román's father and I both did that back in the day.
Fun. Now, Asher, this sounds like this. You've already mentioned this is a departure from what you have done before. So give us a sense of what you did before Ghosts happened to you. For you.
Well, I similar to Rebecca, I was like crazy shy, social anxiety up. I probably should never have been an actor because none of this came naturally. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and but I this story. I had a huge crush on this girl in the 7th grade, and somehow by mistake ended up in the school jazz band. And then everyone graduated. There was no one left in the school jazz band, and we were supposed to do Brown Eyed Girl. And I got up in front of the school and somehow changed the words, sang it, and changed the words to Hazel-Eyed Girl for her, which Utkarsh will tell you does not fit. And I remember like my body was shaking. I was terrified, but I was like in love with this girl, and obviously it backfired horribly. But there was like this thrill of kind of like being, I think, part of a community or being part of a thing. And that, I think, I just couldn't, I wanted to do more. I think maybe a loneliness was kind of fed by that or something. And then what followed was basically 18 years of unemployment and rejection and like agents firing me left and right and all that. And going to grad school and things of that nature. And then, yeah, man, it's hard being an actor. It's a really hard life.
You're a professor.
Yeah. So, well, when I got out of grad school, I started working as a substitute teacher in South Central LA. And so I would just go into different schools and try to like see if kids will pay attention to me. And so then that morphed into, I was bad at auditioning. And so I started helping people out with their auditions. And anyone who ever needed help, I would just drive to them and help them. And I got better at that. And then I taught at Rikers Island to the inmates there. I taught acting there for a little bit. And then that job got me a job at Hunter College, which is where I'm about to start the spring semester there. So then teaching was actually a really informative thing because nothing ever came naturally. So I was able to kind of, I don't know, maybe help get people from point A to point B, maybe. I don't know. But this show is like, this is a dream come true. I'm thrilled, and these people are fantastic. So yeah, I'm very happy.
Professor Grodman teaching young actors how to take off their pants.
There it is.
That's amazing.
And that's how I got fired.
I got fired.
Oh, Devan, your trajectory from sports to acting, that sounds really interesting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, acting was never on my radar. I was always kind of an athlete, meathead dude. And, I played college ball at University of Oregon, go Ducks. And then I had a cup of coffee in the league with the Panthers. And then when the chair got pulled out from under me, I didn't really have anywhere to sit. And so I kind of stood around for a while, not knowing what to do with myself because I lost my identity because I was like, I'm a football player. I got a number after my name. And then one day you don't have a number after your name. You're like, how do I even sign this? And, it's like, I just kind of like wandered around for a little bit, and I tried to get jobs. No one would hire me. I couldn't get a job doing anything. I was like, obviously I was like applying for weird jobs, like selling like high-end art, which I had no experience doing. But like I was trying to go for cool stuff like that. And thought about doing fireman stuff. And like, need to go back to school. I was like, I'm not going.
None of us have heard this. High-end art?
I'm dead serious. My family is all artists. My grandfather's an artist. My grandma's an artist. My mom's an artist. She's a writer as well. And there's like this. There's like an ad in a newspaper back when you look at ads, and I was like living in Venice, still do. And I saw an ad for like this art gallery. They were hiring someone that could sell artwork. And I was like, man, you can make a lot of money selling artwork. And I was like, I could sell stuff. And I called my grandfather up and I was like, give me the rundown about art. He's like, there's different kinds of art. I was like, all right, whatever, I'm done. And I walked in, and it was comedy. I was like, this guy's like, so what's your background? I was like, well, I played football. And I was hoping he'd be like, "Oh yeah, where?" And he's like, "That's great." I was like, "So," he's like, do you know about it? I was like, "No." Anyways, didn't get that job, and so I was kind of running out of money there and options. And a friend of mine's like, "You should try acting. You know, we're in LA here. That's what people do." I was like, "Oh, dude, I can't do that." He's like, "Just try it out." And so I started submitting myself on things and just kind of nickel and dimed it, and then kind of slowly built a career, and then got typecast as a romantic lead a lot. And I was always getting cast as very sophisticated doctors. And, just kind of got caught up in that, you know, doing all that. Then this role came along. I said, "You know what? This is something out of my wheelhouse. I'm not comfortable doing any kind of primitive Viking stuff." And it was a big swing for me. It was a real stretch. And I just want to thank everyone for giving me a chance to come out. It worked out.
Congratulations, dude. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brandon, associated with one of my other favorite comedies, The Other Two. So, congratulations on that. But give us a little background on what your story is.
So I grew up in Maryland. I wanted to be a professional tennis player. And then when I was 14, had like a mental breakdown and was like, I can't do this. I need to go into something more stable, like a career in acting, and decided to do that. But I've always been a big fan of film and television and theater. And kind of, as I was getting into acting, was also getting into writing for the theater and writing for the screen. And it was the thing that I wanted to keep learning about. I ended up sort of getting myself to New York City, where I took drama classes and went to drama school. And afterwards, I kind of just didn't know what I wanted to do, or I didn't know how I could really put that stuff to use. I, similar to Devan, classic leading man looks. So I almost too many options. But I decided that I really wanted to keep writing and performing, and I found myself, similarly to Richie, like at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, where I wrote and I got the chance to write and perform and do improv sketch comedy for many, many years. And it was one of the best things in the world, because you get to work with a bunch of different ensembles, and really kind of figured out that that's what I loved the most, was kind of collaborating with people while getting a chance to sort of not only find your voice, but find your voice within a larger group, which I think is really interesting. And trying hard to failing a lot of not good stuff. But eventually, I kind of had this idea where I was like, if I keep sticking around, eventually something's going to have to happen, because they're going to feel bad for me. And then that's what happened. And I ended up booking a couple gigs and a couple jobs, and one led to the other. And in the meantime, was writing and trying to get jobs that way. And thankfully, there's been this nice convergence, like on a show like The Other Two, where I got a chance to write and perform. And then a couple years later, this opportunity came by, and have been the luckiest person in the world getting a part to be Ghost, and I be a part of Ghost. So
I love the implication that you fell into this because people felt sorry for you, Brandon. That's not how you get a Critics' Choice Award nomination. That is not how that happens. It is the talent.
It is. But you should see the mailers I sent out, which was just like me, like, please.
It's funny, whenever Brandon enters the room, we're all supposed to applaud. It's a rule on set.
Exhausting.
Yeah, it was a rule I invented late in the game too. It's like, we're on episode 13 or 14, whatever it is. I'm like, please applaud when you're on.
So, Román, you're being a second generation actor, I believe. You said your father's going to come on the show at some point, but nonetheless, how did this all come to pass for you?
So I grew up in New York City, in the Village, in a studio apartment with my parents and two older sisters. Big performing arts family, and my dad, when I was like 3 years old, was on Broadway with Bernadette Peters in Annie Get Your Gun. And so that was kind of the beginning for me of just like second acting that show, being backstage, hanging out with Bernadette, and just so in awe of just this art form. And so I did, school plays, and then in high school, middle school, I started to audition for things. We moved to LA, and I started audition for things, do commercials, got my SAG card. I think I was 15. I did like a Boys and Girls Club commercial, and so that's when I got my SAG card. And but I just had such a problem through high school because I just wasn't booking things. I would audition all the time. I booked a couple like TV spots, and then I auditioned for UCLA to go to be in their musical theater program where my sister went. And I was like, great, I'm gonna get in, easy peasy. My life path is gonna go this way, and I didn't get in. And so I had like a quarter life crisis at like 18, like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. And so I decided that I was fed up with all these, kind of racist characters that I would always be auditioning for. So I ended up going to film school to learn how to write and direct my own projects. And so I went to Cal State Northridge for film production. And I was also working with Native Voices at the Autry, which is a Native American theater company in Los Angeles. And I was just trying to find my voice, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And theater was always my place to come back to. And then I got a really lucky opportunity to work at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for 3 years, pretty much just learning this art form of acting more and doing Shakespeare and diving into it. And so a lot of my, I guess, training in acting comes a lot from theater. And then the pandemic hit, and I was again lost, auditioning for random things, doing all these self tapes, and just so lost. And then I auditioned for Ghosts, and I reached a tipping point when I auditioned for Ghosts where I was like, I'm so fed up that I didn't even care. And I feel like that helped book it, because also Sasapis doesn't care. He's so fed up with everything that it actually fit perfectly. So it just worked out, and I'm just so grateful to be here. I'm grateful for my dad and all the stuff that he went through. His 40 years of acting is really, helped me get to the point where I am. So and I'm just grateful to have really supportive parents and help me along the way. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Sheila. Let's hear a little bit about you.
Well, hanging out with Bernadette are 3 words that you will not hear me say about my career, but that's very cool, Román. I didn't know that. It's been a journey. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I was a preacher's kid and sang in choirs at church a lot, and came from a very performing family. Like, no one in my family had ever tried, on both sides, had ever tried to be an artist of any kind. But everyone had a knack for just kind of being funny and telling stories and singing songs and all that. So I kind of fell into it after I watched the musical Annie for the first time, and was like, that's what I want to do. So me and my sisters, we went and auditioned, and my first role in theater was in the orphan chorus of a community theater production of Annie, which was for all the kids that didn't get a speaking role. And we came on for a Hard Knock Life and then went off for the rest of the show. But it was so fun. I got the bug and it stuck with me. So I did theater for a really long time, and had a lot of crazy jobs, trying to get by. And then I moved to LA and I found improv at the Groundlings. And through the Groundlings, I learned how to write through the point of view of characters and doing character work. And commercial work like Richie really kept me going for a while. Yeah, then this pandemic hit and the opportunity for Ghosts came along. And like Román and Danielle, I booked this show over Zoom.
Oh, wow.
Which is wild and was so surreal and almost didn't feel real until we were on set, like day one of shooting the show.
Yeah.
I'm sure for you guys too, that all were waiting for so long. But it truly feels like all the ups and downs that I've taken and all the crazy, bad jobs I've had have led me here. And it's really wound up being like a perfect journey for me, because this is the perfect role on the perfect show, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And I feel like all the experiences that I've had up till now have really fed into my work and made me better. And I'm just very grateful.
Utkarsh, give us a little bit of rundown.
The young actors who are watching are people who want to get into the industry. Like, the word is persistence, right? We all have had long and storied, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, my story is long. It involves a lot of different twists and turns. Like Danielle, the roles that I had the opportunity to get as a young South Asian, I wasn't going to get them because I'm not like the computer guy. I'm not the nerd. So we have to sort of like make our own way. write our own material, speak on behalf of our own communities. I've been in commercials, I've been off Broadway, I've been on Broadway. I was an MTV VJ. I went to West Africa and was an assistant professor in hip hop theater. I was a battle rapper. I was at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe doing slam poetry. You know, we've built sets. We've done everything we've had to do. We've been sound men. We've done our own makeup, all that stuff. And here we are. We're all here. We're together. And I think just seeing everyone on this panel, for anybody who wants to get in, really the only rule is don't quit. It's just that simple. I have 13 or 14 failed pilots under my belt before this one turned into an overnight success. So I think it's really cool, and I could speak volumes on everyone here. I remember Sheila in college when we were 19 and having the biggest crush on her because she was so talented, and being in high school with Richie and having the biggest crush on him. He was the school president, and so on and so forth. Devan's in the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame, and now he gets to play against type as a giant human. I just stick with it. I mean, really, it's just a blessing to be here. I think all of us have perspective and gratitude because we've had to get here, for how hard we've had to work to get here.
Well, it's a joy to see you all together. I'm sorry that the time has run out, as it turns out. But again, wish you luck for the rest of the season and the seasons beyond. And thanks so much for joining us, including some of you on your lunch hours. So I'm going to wrap it up by saying, on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I want to thank you for sharing your experiences, process, and craft with your fellow performers. Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is awesome.